Oh boy. Okay, Microsoft messed up today. So they're about a week out from Starfield, right? Biggest game ever, but it's not, right? Baldur's Gate 3 came out and is just destroying everything right now with how popular. It's insane. The memes are great. Starfield, nevertheless, is super hyped. There's a lot of people hyped about it. There's been a lot of people who've got their early copies who are just putting memes like, oh, I can't sleep. And we assume it's because the game is good and it's addicting, right? Which is the hope, right? It's a Bethesda game. Bethesda's legendary, pre-Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. But with this news today, we're seeing Microsoft having a big stumble just 1 week before their, hopefully their phoenix rising from the ashes moment with Starfield. And this is not good. This news comes by way of Twitter, where we see a Larian developer talking about, hey, Future Bobby here with a correction. I just wanted to point out that Sven Vinke is not just a dev at Larian. He's actually the CEO of Larian. So he would know better than anyone else exactly what's going on there. Anyway, back to it. Exceptions being made to the parity clause that Microsoft has between Series X and S. And we're going to talk today about how that might be really bad news for Microsoft and the Series S, and especially Series S owners. Before we get started, I'm Little Bobby here with Five Night Gaming Direct, and we just want to thank you for taking the time to watch today. If you're brand new here, feel free to subscribe, hit that like button if you enjoy this video and you want to talk to us about this content. Leave a comment, let us know what you think about this video. And if you don't like this video, leave a dislike. Let us know in the comments what we can do to improve in the future. With Starfield on the way, right? They're gearing up to have their big resurgence, and they've been really very, very careful about going, hey, we gotta make sure everything's pristine. Everything's gonna be good. We want to make sure the right people have Starfield. So Sony fanboys don't get their hands on it and trash it, right? With a day one review where it's like, oh, well, it wasn't really that good, right? And maybe that happens, maybe that doesn't, right? Personally, I think that Starfield's probably going to be pretty good. Will it have a chance of beating Baldur's Gate 3? I don't know, because Baldur's Gate 3 is, insane for the RPG, the level of RPG that it is. But speaking of Baldur's Gate 3, Xbox has not set a release date for Baldur's Gate 3 yet, right? And they said, well, not they, Larian said that Baldur's Gate 3 was likely going to be coming out in 2024 due to issues trying to optimize and make sure it runs well enough. And we all kind of know what that meant, because they have said before, I think they said back in April, hey, we've got everything running on the Series X, right? The big boy, the trash can. We don't have things running so smoothly on the Series S, and it's been pointed at, just like it's been pointed out by a lot of people, the Series S does not have a lot of memory. There's a memory bandwidth issue with that platform, and it's unfortunate, right? Because it leads to maybe a diminished experience, right? We've seen certain games already say that, hey, we're having to drop certain features. And one of the big features that games have dropped all across the board, right, namely Halo Infinite, is split screen. Now, if you're like me and you're older, you probably have fond memories of meeting up with friends and gaming and playing split screen, even into my college days and after that with my roommates. He had a Xbox One before I got my PlayStation 4, and we would play Call of Duty and just enjoy it, right? Or play old Halo, like split screen, right? That's the thing. You could play with your friends in the same room. It's very social, right? Playing split screen. A lot of people play with their kids, or you play it with, you might play with a spouse or significant other. You might play it with, just roommates, friends, what have you. But we saw Halo Infinite drop it, and a lot of people said, well, it worked fine on the Xbox One X, I think. And the Xbox One X has more memory than the Series S, excuse me. Microsoft's naming conventions are not good, by the way. But the One X has more memories than the Series S. So it makes sense that someone could kind of get around and find a glitch and have it work and go, well, it works on the One X, so it should be fine. I don't know why they dropped it. It's just they decided to drop it because they wanted to do it. Well, we didn't see it running on the Series S, did we? And then we recently learned Forza Motorsport 8 is going to be dropping split screen. And they said, oh, well, it's something that we decided to do because we're putting so much into like the physics and the graphics. It looks so good. We didn't want to do split screen because we felt like it could be too cumbersome. And again, cumbersome for the Series S. It's not the Series X. The Series X has a lot of power. That's a fine enough console, right? As a console standalone, like if I could play God of War Ragnarok on it, I might think about getting a Series X, right? But yeah, we're running into this problem where Series S has a memory bandwidth issue. And Larian today struck the blow. They struck the blow, the mighty blow. Sven Binky, at Larian on Twitter, said, super happy to confirm that after meeting at Xbox P3, that's Phil Spencer, yesterday we found a solution that allows us to bring Baldur's Gate to Xbox players this year still. Something we've been working towards for quite some time. So it's like, yay, like we have Baldur's Gate 3. If you're an Xbox player, you're like, I can play Baldur's Gate 3 this year still. I don't have to wait till next year. But then Sven goes on to say, all improvements will be there with split screen co-op on Series X. Series S will not feature split screen co-op, but will also include cross-save progression between Steam and Xbox Series. Kind of like that's a consolation, but that feature, they already said that feature was coming across the board everywhere, right? Like you're going to be able to save when PlayStation comes out. Like I can take my save and go to PlayStation, play there, then go back to Steam, right? That's not a new feature, nor is that a consolation. That's something that should be there. And if they can't get that running on the Series S, then they've got bigger problems than that. But this is the first time Microsoft is openly just caving and letting a game launch feature incomplete on the Series S, which goes against all of their marketing for the Series S. A lot of people bought a Series S under the pretense that it was going to be a 1440p Series X, right? It's going to be able to do everything the Series X does. That was the promise that was made, by the way. This Series S, this tiny little white box, is going to be able to do everything the trash can does, the big old honking boy, right? That was just not in the cards. And a lot of us who saw the specs are like, ooh, like the processor's nice and everything, but like that's a real lack of memory, right? Having 16 gigs of memory for the entire platform for the Series X and the PlayStation is not good. And the fact that 2 gigs is taken up by the Xbox OS, right? Just for system operations and things like that, keeping your, so you can pick whatever game or app you want to use. All that is taking up 2 gigs by itself. So really you have 8 functioning gigs you can work with. Now, if you haven't seen a lot of PC game specs, a lot of people go, well, look at PC game specs. Those are lower than the Series S. Like it's a worse GPU theoretically. It's like, well, yeah, that GPU may have 4 gigs of memory, but notice that the minimum specs are getting up to 8 gigs of memory. And you go, well, that's as much as the Series S. But you're not taking into account that Series S has that for everything, right? Whereas GPU might have 8 gigs and then the system has 16 gigs on top of it, right? No one's gaming with less than 16 gigs nowadays, I don't think, right? Because 16 gigs of memory, like DDR4 memory, costs you like $12 nowadays. But what really is holding the Xbox Series S back is that memory bandwidth. And the fact now that Larian has gotten permission and come out and openly stated, there will not be the split screen. You're not getting full features of this game if you're playing on the Series S, is very worrying. Because that means if you're a Series S owner, which is, I would say, anywhere between 80 and 90% of Xbox owners this generation are Series S owners, right? If you're a Series S player, you're not going to have the same game that people on Xbox Series X or on PlayStation or on Steam have. Regardless of whether or not you're going to use that split screen feature, this is just opening up Pandora's box, because there's been tons of devs who said like, we really don't like doing it because it's such a pain and there's so much overhead, there's so many resources that go into having to work with that system. Now you've given, sure, Baldur's Gate is a special game, but you've given someone permission to ignore the feature parity clause. So one of 2 things is going to happen now. We're going to see a ton of studios saying, Microsoft, we're not going to work with Series X, either not bringing a game to Series S entirely because they just don't want to deal with the low memory, or we're going to bring it, but we're not going to have whatever features we don't want to include because it's such a pain to get it working on that underpowered system, right? That's why a lot of games don't, you don't see Call of Duty on the Switch, right? Sure, Activision came out recently and said, yeah, we would have done it if we could have, but it'd be like back in the day when I was doing testing for PS3 and Xbox 360, and you'd play a PS3 game and you play the same game, right? Same game on the Wii. And the Wii was just comically underpowered compared to those consoles back then. And it just looked terrible, right? The Wii ports were lesser than And that's what I'm worried about for anyone who bought a Series S. You bought into the lie. You bought into the, no, this thing's fine. It's going to do just fine. It'll save you money. Because here's the problem now. If you want those full features, you have a few options, right? You buy another Xbox, but it has to be a Series X, right? So if you really love Xbox, that's what you're going to do. You're going to spend another $500 on top of the $300 you already spent. So now you're $800. Or you're going to go, I'm just going to buy a PlayStation. And that would be very bad because Xbox has been struggling this gen. They're already down 2-1. Their sales of consoles are slowing way down. PlayStations are ramping way up. That's not good because we do need that competition, right? Like, I've many times railed against the Series S and Microsoft and Xbox as a company because I believe they can do better and they don't. And that's the issue, right? They don't secure talent to make good stuff. And Phil Spencer said, famously, and sure, he had a thing that he meant by it, but he said famously a few months ago, there's no way that we could ever out console Sony or Nintendo. We're not even trying to do that. And there's no universe where Starfield comes out an 11 out of 10 and just makes everybody switch over. To which point I said, yeah, but I might buy an Xbox still. Right? I might buy your console still. I'm not gonna sell my PlayStation to get your Xbox, but I might put an Xbox next to my PlayStation if you offer good stuff. Going about it the way they've been going, using the Series S as the low entry point, that and Game Pass, trying to keep it cheap, right? Has led to this under delivery for this entire generation. Games are not been great. There's been some good ones, People love Hi-Fi Rush. I did not like that game at all. Right? People didn't like Scorn. I liked that game. I thought it was not a great game, but I thought, man, it's a really cool experience, right? Very, very cool. I actually really dug Scorn and that whole vibe, right? I'm a big fan of Giger, excuse me, and Alien, right? And all that aesthetic. So I thought it was rad. But yeah, it's really not been many wins for Microsoft. And this I'm seeing is just going to be a huge L, and there's going to be so many people who jump on this. You talk about negative sentiment. It seems like here with this announcement, like they could have waited 2 weeks. Said, "Hey, Larian, we're going to wait 2 weeks. Let us launch Starfield before you put out this news." And I don't know if Microsoft was okay with this, or Larian was just like, "Hey, we're going to announce it because it sounds great," not realizing the bigger implications of everything that happened here. But what do you think about this? Do you think that devs are going to turn on the Series S now? Because there have been a lot of devs who've been very open about not liking that machine very much. And now that there's been an exception made, right? It's the old, if it bleeds, we can kill it thing, right? There's been an exception made now. Feature parity is no longer required. And you may say, hey, it's just for Baldur's Gate 3 because it's game of the year, 97 highest rated PC game of all time. They had to do it. Well, other devs might go, we're not going to bother with your ecosystem unless we can just put it on the Series X, or we can cut features because it's just too much of a hassle. If you're trying to make, big epic, next Dragon Age game, and you have the option to put it on the Series X or a tablet, right? You're not going to want to put it on the tablet, right? But that's where most of Microsoft's customers are. That creates the problem, right? But let us know. What do you think? Are you concerned Series S owner? I mean, if I was a Series S owner, I would be extremely concerned about this news because it means that one exception has been made. There's going to be demands for others to be made. And that means your console, again, is less than, which is something that we've said here for a long time. That the Series S, sure, it seems great now. There's no chance it holds through the whole generation. And we're already seeing it less than 3 years in. That exceptions are having to be made on big titles. And so other big titles down the line might have to do the same. Leave us a comment down below, let us know. And like I said, if you're new here and you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. It'd be cool. It's a good way to support us and it's free. You can also leave us a like. That helps us out a lot. And if you didn't like this video, leave a dislike. Let us know down in the comments below why. Again, I'm Little Bobby here with 5 Gaming Direct, hoping that Microsoft can somehow make something good come from this. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.